And we're back from the show floor here at this Singularity University Global Summit. For a second, I just lost my train of thought because I'm so excited to have our next guest here. Andy Billings, who is the head of profitable creativity, which we will dig deep into what that actually means, at one of the world's largest gaming companies, also one of the, I think, oldest gaming companies around, Electronic Arts. Andy, I'm super stoked to have you here.
It's good to see you, Pascal. Thank you.
Also, just want to mention this, honorable mention, you're one of our star mentors in our Singularity University startup programs. Andy, you've got the most curious title I've ever seen. When we met, got your business card and said, at the time I think it was VP, Profitable Creativity or something. What is this? What do you describe by that?
Pascal, I got one of the greatest jobs there at Electronic Arts. It's the intersection of creativity, making the world's most amazing games, and keeping people in that creative space to make those amazing games, and running it as a successful business. So it's getting creatives to understand how to be good business people, and they can, and it's helping business people understand how to support and encourage creatives. So it's the how do we make great games and how do we get people in the right space to do that.
So I'm really curious. Let me say, I grew up on Electronic Arts games. I mean,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, this is what my childhood, right? And this company has been going strong for how long now? Like 30 plus years?
Yeah, approaching 40 years.
40 years. So 40 years in an industry which is incredibly driven by creativity at the extreme edge of it, right? Like gaming to a very large extent for the last 40 years has pushed creativity. How do you keep people in that space? How do you keep them creative?
It's a good question. Maybe I talk about, maybe say it like in three areas.
Sure.
I think things that we do to be innovative and creative are to always keep people being empathic with our players. Second thing would be always interactive in the design of our games, interactive with our players. And then thirdly, just to be deeply curious all the time about what we're doing and what's happening with our players. And if it's okay with you, maybe I'll just explain one game.
Please, absolutely.
And go from there. So we're making Star Wars games. We're very excited about that. So on the empathy part, we no longer think about classic demographic characteristics of people as their segment or the target. We think about what motivates them, what's fun to them, and we now kind of developed a whole taxonomy of different reasons that people play games, like you might want to compete, I might want to design something, someone else might want to tell a story, and so we have much more insight into what makes people interested in playing games, and then we spend a lot of time with those players. So to be empathic now, we bring the players into the company, and we ask them all about Star Wars and what's interested, and we understand what motivates them to play. And then we also go to their own living room or their study, and we find out, how are they playing those games. So we've now got a group of people that are helping us. Right now, about 500 people are helping us get a game out in Stockholm, and they're giving us ideas and improving. So that's kind of the empathy part.
Do you think you can? So, one step back, we just had Andreas Gall here, who's an incredible coder, and Andreas and I have shared history working together. And
at Mozilla.
At Mozilla, right. And a lot of coders are not let me rephrase this. Some coders are not particularly empathetic, right? They're like very nerdy, like sitting in front of their computers, and they're masters of it. Can you get these people to be empathetic?
Yeah, good question. So, people that come to work for Electronic Arts as coders are there to unite the world. So they're there on a mission, and when we bring players in, young, old, different kinds of things, they get to see who they are creating games for, and they hear those people get so excited and so passionate about those games that they're just wired for weeks after those visits. Just amazing. Wow. Our problem is actually to calm them down and not go so wide rather than to rev them up.
Interesting. I think it feels to me there's a correlation to design thinking, which is this it was a buzzword 15-ish years ago. I remember going to the D School, Stanford D School, where they taught this. It now feels to be like a very strong business paradigm, which a lot of organizations use to their advantage.
Right.
Where do you see the overlap and where is it different?
Well, we're still really deep into that design thinking. So for us, it's being interactive in the design process. We have all this empathy and all these insights with players. Mm-hmm. We used to call them customers, Pascal. Sorry to say that. Now we call them players. Completely different think about them.
Yeah.
We try and be interactive with them throughout the design process. So we have a group of people on the Star Wars game. We call them game changers. They're deep Star Wars fans and they're deep gamers. There are about 100 of them. And they spend an unhealthy amount of time every week playing the builds of the game, giving us feedback and giving us feedback, ideas, tuning, polishing.
It sounds like a dream job for some, I tell you that.
They do this, they compete for the opportunity to do this on their own time.
Oh, bet.
So
I bet, I can see that.
It's amazing. So to your question, though, they don't necessarily bring the innovation that's going to make that a hit game.
Yeah.
They can bring ideas and they can respond to what we do, but we still have to come out with some blockbuster ideas that will make will make it a hit.
How do you marry the creative side and the business side? Because your thing is like profitable creativity, right? Like how do you? I understand how you do it on a company side, but how do you do this with like the individual?
So we play a lot of games. Around making games and creativity and business models, and our game makers, our creatives, see them as games. They don't see them as learning business, they just see them as one other algorithm, one other piece of code that they're learning, and so they understand I need to hit games which will pull in players and make them stick and so forth, and they also understand I have certain metrics, certain dials that are my profitability dials, and I need to get them up as well.
So you're turning, let me see if I get this right, you're turning your business into a game.
Business into a game. And
That's amazing.
And a game in the sense that there are no immediate bad consequences. I mean, that's the real business, but we step aside from that, and we have environments in which people will simulate their games and simulate their live services with kind of real to life kinds of data, and they get the experience of what it's like to run the business. And that's how we help our creatives especially see what are the decisions that they make and then what are the consequences. But they're still in that play environment, so they're actually not harming. The CFO doesn't get excited when we play these games.
I bet. That's really fascinating. Do you think this would translate into other businesses? Like if you were to take this out of the context of EA being a gaming company, and clearly your DNA is around this, if you were to take this into like a more traditional business, do you think this would work?
Pascal, here's what I think is the translation piece, and that's what I would call playful or having fun, which is you've suspended just a tiny bit of reality, you're just focusing on a few set of parameters, a few variables, you know what kind of the win state is, and you're just having fun. You're just, and if people are laughing, whatever environment it is, whether that's pharmaceuticals or manufacturing, if people have that kind of, I'm having fun, I'm experimenting, I'm laughing, I think they'll be learning.
Interesting. You should start EA Academy. You know, like Disney runs, I forgot what the name is, but Disney Academy, I think it is actually, where they teach the Disney way of thinking, right? And there's something really interesting in there which deeply resonates with me, with particular games becoming more fascinatingly, on one hand, more professionally, like really like people spending hours and hours and hours, way more than I did as a child. And then on the other hand, you've got the whole casual gaming, right? So gaming becomes this universal language somehow, right, for people.
Yeah, so that's where we're really excited. I mean, some people say, well, maybe gaming has reached its peak, but I actually think maybe we're just on the doorstep of what it really could be, because there are many, many players today for whom learning to play a game is too hard. Right. The consoles are, the controls are too hard, the constraints are too hard, and we just need to figure out how to make, a fun, playful environment which very easy to learn to play, and with AR, VR, other kinds of ways of putting in your ideas, by voice or by gesture, all kinds of people are going to be able to play games that didn't want to spend the time to learn the controls.
Yeah, right. I think that fits, of course, nicely in the stuff we're doing. We're showcasing here at the Global Summit, like all the new technologies coming up and enabling this. Let me take one step back into the earlier part of the conversation. I asked you if you think we can become empathetic. Do you think we can become innovative? Can we teach being innovative?
Yeah. Pascal, you weren't supposed to ask me any really hard questions. So I don't know if you can teach innovation, but I know that you can teach leaders how to create the environment in which innovation will come out of people. So I think there's a zone between complacency or too comfortable, maybe that's sitting on a couch on a Sunday afternoon kind of zoned out, and the other end of the zone is, maybe it's too much pressure, or I'm threatened in some way, I don't feel safe in some way. So in between that complacency and threat is a very narrow zone of safety or security, or it's a beautiful zone for being creative. And if people are creative, enough ideas will come out that some of them will be applicable to your business, and we'll call those innovations. So I think you can help leaders learn to gauge, is my team in the zone? Yeah. And if not, what do I need to do as a leader to either ramp up the pressure or to ratchet it down and try and get them in that zone? So that, with practice, I think you as a leader will get to know, and you'll have some practices around how to do that.
So you work with a lot of leaders, both inside your organization as well as with your volunteering work, for example, at Singularity University.
At Singularity, right.
I'm curious, is there a particular quality or skill you would identify which is necessary for the leader, particularly in these weird, exponentially accelerating times?
Yeah, maybe it's that third idea around just always being curious. And I think when you're curious, you're not blocking and stopping and preventing new ideas or new technology from coming, you're kind of embracing them. So if you can always just get yourself in that curious zone around, gee, I wonder what that means, and then mistakes, setbacks, problems don't feel like they're devastating, they feel like more data coming in.
Do you think that's something people have? Like, it's something which is like socialization, genetics, whatever, karma, whatever you want to call it, or is it something which people actually have learned?
I think you can, some people seem to have just a natural abundance of it, but I think you can learn it, and I think you can practice it, and then I think the work environment or the creation environment that we live in can foster it. So even if you have only genetically a small amount of it, if you practice and if you put the right environment around someone, I think just amazing things can come from people that don't necessarily go, well, I'm a creative genius, but I have enough.
Yeah. Interesting. I bet you money that there's a whole bunch of people who are currently watching this who are asking themselves the question, oh my God, I would love to work at EA. Are you guys hiring?
We're definitely hiring. So you can always go look at our job site, ea.com, and but only people that want to have fun probably should apply.
I think we find those people. I want to bring us back to, and probably as our last point here, you already talked a little bit about what you think the future holds in terms of gaming, in terms of different inputs which allow people to be, to interact with the game in different new ways. What are your predictions for the future of gaming?
Yeah. Future of gaming. I think you ask a lot of people today, are you a gamer? And they say no. Right. But when I watch them, they have games on their mobile phones. They're interacting with people digitally in ways that I would call gaming. So I think we're going to redefine what gaming means, which is interacting, connecting, and having fun in a digital space. And instead of a few billion people gaming, we'll have, who knows, maybe the whole world will be gaming. Interesting.
Fascinating. I want to ask you, sorry, this is a question out of left field.
Okay.
So just super curious. What's your favorite game?
Oh, my favorite game, that's easy. It's SimCity.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is, I started playing when I just started working with the company, and I just love creating things, and I love creating cities and having people have fun and connect inside the city. So, yep, that's my favorite game.
I remember SimCity, this has been around for a long time and it's gone through a lot of iterations. If I can take you on a journey, because this whole global summit is around the future, right? If I can take you on a journey, and of course don't spill anything you're working on, but 20 years out, SimCity will probably still be there, I'm pretty sure, because it's such a franchise. But how will SimCity look like? What do you envision? Are we using augmented reality to build cities in our surroundings? Are we like rebuilding San Francisco while we're living in the city?
We're assuming we'll have cities in the future.
That's a good question.
I think that we'll, a couple of things. I think people will be creating all kinds of environments, not only just cities. So it will be maybe their home or maybe other kinds of environments or transportation systems. So I think what is really fun to me about SimCity is the creation of a system that's serving some kind of a community. So I think it will branch in a lot of ways. So it could become environmental, it could be about architecture, it could be about plumbing, energy, and I think that it will be deeply social.
Wow.
So you'll be creating a community with people speak different languages from different parts of the world, and so you'll be building a kind of a global city. That would be very exponential, I think.
That would be very exponential indeed.